Today's podcast is presented by Podgo. Podgo is the easiest way for you to monetize your podcast, providing podcasters with a flat rate for ad space so you always know how much you get when you include an ad from Podgo. I recently joined as a member, and you can too. Apply today to become a member and immediately be connected with the advertisers that fit your audience. That's podgo.co at podgo.co.
And please put unprofessional development in the "How did you hear about Podgo?" That will give us a little finder's fee. Thank you. Hello, unprofessionals. So as you know, now we're doing real commercials, not just the silly ones that we normally do. So today I've got with me my daughter Micah. Say hello, Micah.
Hi.
She has an Etsy account. It's called what?
Roo Makes Bracelets.
Roo Makes Bracelets, okay? We'll put a link in the show notes for you for sure. So she makes some friendship bracelets. She even has one that is kind of an unprofessional bracelet where she's made the unpro letters in the bracelet. So if you need a bracelet, go to Roo's Bracelets. Anything else you want to say about your bracelets?
No.
Okay. Well, she's a little kid. She's 11 years old. She's entrepreneuring. You know, support her. And go to Roo's Bracelets. Click the link in the show notes. Thank you. Say goodbye, Micah.
Bye.
Unprofessionals, we need your help. Mealy and I keep trying to explain to the world how special we are, but they won't believe us. Here's what you can do. Check in the show notes for the link to the People's Podcast Awards. And please nominate us so the rest of the world can realize exactly how amazing we are. Enjoy! Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Unprofessional Development. I'm Tedisco.
And I'm Mealy, and today we have with us Larkyn Simony.
Okay.
Sure, and I know her from the Twitter. I can't remember how I found her on the Twitter. I would say her biggest she's got two claims to fame on the Twitter part of her that I follow. One is her ability to create a pun out of thin air, and then also her advocacy for mental health. And we'll get into all of those things, I think, today, as well as much, much more, boys and girls.
How you doing today, Larkyn?
I am doing great. How are you?
Wonderful. On this happy Saturday. So, can you just give us a quick rundown of what's been your educational journey?
I am actually not a teacher anymore, other than occasional tutoring. I taught for 12 years. I actually did not get any degrees that had anything to do with teaching. In my family, the tradition is get a degree that you can't use unless you get a master's degree. Then go back and get a master's degree and don't use that, and then get a teaching certificate. So I got bachelor's degrees.
That's a good plan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure my parents were very pleased with all the money. Once you get to graduate school, you fund your own education, so there was that. But yeah, I got a degree in film and then in art, and then I got a master's in education. But before that, I went through and did teacher certification in early childhood. And then I added, here in Georgia at least, you can add certification by taking tests. Here we called it the praxis. It might have a different name now.
Yeah, we take the praxis here in North Carolina as well.
So I'm still certified. I will keep that certification up till I am dead, because it's real hard if you let it lapse to get it back. Like, you have to do all this stuff, and I don't want to have to do that. So I'm certified in pre-K through 5, and then pre-K through 5 special ed, and then pre-K through 12 ESOL, and pre-K through 12 art. And I've taught all of those things.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So it's been interesting.
And what was your favorite?
Special ed.
Okay. Oh, wow.
I taught at a school where we didn't have special ed, though. We had support services.
Oh.
No one it was a rather wealthy school, private school. No one needed special education services at that school. It was learning disabilities.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They're differently able.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Differently abled, yes.
What made special education your favorite? Because that takes a very kind of special flavor person to be drawn to that.
It was my favorite thing because, first of all, I liked the fact that to figure out why a kid didn't understand something. And where I taught, you didn't have to go through all the paperwork and all the response to intervention and all the meetings. Like, just if a kid was having trouble, I could see them even if I only saw them because they totally didn't understand place value in math. I would see them for like a month. But most of my students did have educational testing and diagnoses for their conditions. I had a number of ADHD students. I love working with ADHD kids. Mm-hmm. And I got really good at it. And, cause there's all these different strategies, but I think you learn so much teaching, students with different needs because you have to teach them in like 50 different ways. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you get to the point where you're like, I just don't know how else to tell you to do this. Let's just play a game till tomorrow. And then the next day they come back sometimes, when you're trying to do something and you're just done.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And then you come back later and you're like, okay, now I can fold this laundry. It's well known on Twitter I don't fold my laundry. So,
it's the human equivalent of turning off your laptop and turning it back on again.
Pretty much. Like unplug it, plug it back in.
Right.
Then it works. Yeah, so I liked the part that was like kind of trying to figure out why they were having a problem. Mm-hmm. Like, why are they not able to multiply 3-digit by 3-digit numbers? And you could go through and be like, these are weird mistakes. And if you looked at it enough, you could figure out, on the second number, they're actually not multiplying, they're adding. And that kind of went across the board for anything, is trying to discover why they didn't get it. And a lot of times I learned, because I don't care for teaching reading. So we usually gave that to someone else because we didn't want them to read backwards. Mm-hmm. So, I specialize kind of in math disabilities, and I learned that a lot of times, since math is its own language pretty much, I also learned that a lot of students who had trouble with math word problems had trouble because of the language, not because they didn't get the math. Mm. Like, I learned this one girl couldn't do certain problems because the problem had the word under in it, and she didn't know what under meant. Wow. And she had a receptive language learning disability, which is worse than expressive, because there's a lot more things you can do to help someone express themselves. But with receptive, it's harder to work with. And once she figured out what under meant, she was like, oh, I can do this problem. So that's the thing I liked about it. And I also learned ways, like, it's also the empathy with the kids. Like, a lot of times, I don't know if y'all are in public school.
Public, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Even in private school, if you don't look like you're teaching, that's bad. You gotta look like you're teaching correctly. Like, then you gotta look like you're doing it right.
Yes.
If someone comes in and you're allowing a child to just cry, or you're just letting them sit there and chat with you, you don't look like you're teaching right.
Yes.
But sometimes that's what you would have to do, because they'd get so frustrated, or they'd come in and they got a 40 on their test. Mm-hmm. And I'd be like, well, what'd you get last time? A 30? I'm like, well, that's better. And then I would tell them, like, you're in 4th grade. Do you think anyone in college cares what you got in 4th grade math? Yes. And I would tell them, like, the grades don't really matter. Now, don't tell your parents or your teachers. But, like, they're just there so we can see how you're doing. Yeah. And I'm just going to be honest with you. And I would tell them how I failed physics in college, and then my parents had to pay for me to take it again because some of us are just not good at things. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I would get in trouble because that's how you should teach kids. Yes. Like, you can't make someone learn when they're crying because they just failed something that really is important to them.
No.
Like, if you try to make me do that, I'm just going to, like, punch you in the throat. Yes. Well, not literally, because I'd have to reach through the screen.
There you go.
But yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with adults. If you saw a coworker crying when you're supposed to be in a PD, are you gonna nag at them for not being in the PD? No, you're gonna say, all right, they're dealing with something, and you're gonna trust them to know their own emotions.
Right.
Yeah, but I think people don't always treat kids that way, and you have to treat kids respectfully, and like they actually know what they're talking about. And I think a lot of times, like, special ed taught me, I mean, I didn't talk like that to kids anyway, and I think a lot of teachers don't, but some do. I'm sure you've seen some. Yes. Who make the same amount you do for the same number of years, but they are crazy and do nothing. Right. Not that all teachers do that, or most, but so it's just like the empathy and knowing what the kids need and not trying to force them to do stuff when they're not able,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We have this weird philosophy that kids are people.
Yeah,
not everybody's on board.
So.
It doesn't work on me.
No.
Yeah, kids don't learn from people they don't like.
No, they don't.
Or people who don't try to make it interesting. Even like history, for example, you can make it so interesting, but it's shocking how many people make it so boring.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, it is.
I mean, if kids could be motivated by grades, they wouldn't need teachers. Yeah. Online schooling would be amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, it would, yeah.
But it doesn't. But
work. It's not.
No, there's about, I would say, roughly 20 to 30% of kids that are, you know what I mean? I think the last thing I saw, there's like 34, 35% of adults go to college. So those are mostly the people who cared about grades, which means the other 65 don't. And even some of the ones that go to college didn't care that much about grades.
Right.
No, that's true.
I went to college. I didn't care about grades. Other than
Now, when you go in and you just do well because you can look at something for 20 minutes, that's what happened to me. And then I did 2 years at Georgia Tech, and I got there and I wasn't the smartest person in the room anymore. And I then had to read my biology textbook twice every time to get a high B. And I was like, I never learned how to study. So these kids that I taught who had the learning disabilities really learned how to study. And I've taught long enough that I know some of them went to college and did really well, while some of these kids who it just comes so naturally to, the minute they fail, because they've been told they're succeeding because they're so intelligent. So when they fail, it's because they're not intelligent. But when these kids who have an issue, who know they have it, fail, it's just because they need to find another way to do it. So I think in some ways it's advantageous to have a learning disability, unless your parents know not to constantly praise you for being intelligent and to praise you for how hard you work, you know?
Yeah. See, that was my problem. My mom would like brag on my test scores because I could score in like the 90th percentile. And then I'm like, oh, I'm smart. And then the teacher would be like, well, yeah, but you didn't do this and you didn't do this. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm smart. Like, give me a good grade, stupid face.
I know. You know? And then when you get a failing grade, it's an identity crisis.
Yeah.
It is, And you have to learn it when you're older, which is harder.
And I tell my kids all the time, because I teach honors kids, I teach kids with special needs, and I tell all of them, look, the unemployment lines of the world are full of smart people. Don't try. Nobody cares. Totally nobody cares how smart you are. Not a single person. You're never going to get an IQ test to get into a job. People care how hard you work, and that's it.
That's not true.
Well, yeah, you are. Now you're going to get 8 rounds of interviews and like a blood test and all your DNA taken. And I took
a weird IQ test to get a job in heating and air. Believe it or not, they placed you in different spots depending on what you were. Oh no, you're a grunt. You're going to carry stuff. Oh, you can actually understand.
We could still get a job.
Yes, we can actually teach you how to connect wires to things without blowing stuff up and causing it to short out. So that's what we'll do with you, or whatever.
I hate when people do that. Well, because like when kids take standardized tests, it doesn't often correlate to how they do in the classroom.
No, no, it doesn't. So kind of tangential to this, we're going to kind of go here for a little bit. So you are. I see you as a mental health advocate. You were big on sharing like both your story and talking to people and obviously working with the kids that you work with. It sounds like it's a passion of yours since you've left school.
Okay, so I don't know if I call myself an advocate because I kind of feel like I'd need to be like famous or something to be an advocate. And all these people call themselves an advocate. And for some reason, just because like anyone can name themselves that, I think I consider myself more of like an educator.
Well, I am an influencer who life coaches advocates. So if you need any help, then just sign up for my 10-week course. All right.
For $5,000.
Exactly. Yes.
There you go. I think I consider myself more of someone just trying to educate people because there's such a stigma still around mental health, even though so 20 years ago, we didn't have commercials on all the time where, there's a sad person on the couch and their dog comes and wants to be walked and they can't walk the dog because they're depressed and then you get all sad.
Yes.
And then they tell you, oh, they took this medication and now they're walking their dog. We didn't have those 20 years ago. And I think those commercials even, which tell you you're going to go into a coma and die as a side effect, which isn't. If you have anxiety and the anxiety drug commercial is telling you might go into a coma and die, that's not really helpful.
Yes.
Right.
But
I know. It's like the side effects are suicidal thoughts. I'm like, what? What are you doing?
Yeah, that's really going to help people. But at least that stuff, I think people see it. And because of the weird side effects or because they make them depressing, it's like, have you ever seen that? I think it's Humane Society commercial with that Sarah McLachlan song.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And then you have to run. If you can't find the remote, you have to run to the TV and turn it off so you don't have to see it.
Yes.
But it still brings awareness to the fact that people have issues. 20 years ago, we didn't have that. But unfortunately today, there's still a stigma. Now, I'm very open about my mental health issues. I forget sometimes when I'm not on Twitter that when you meet your neighbor, they will feel weird if you start telling them you have bipolar disorder. So when I meet people in real life, I have to remember, okay, wait till they see you're not crazy, then tell them. But the way I started making videos is this. So I was misdiagnosed. I started having anxiety in 1st grade. So I was 6. So when I was in 4th grade, I had this girl come in to the school who did not like me. So I kind of had a bullying situation going on, but I ended up skipping the 5th grade. And so I went to 6th grade where most of my friends were anyway, because my cousin was in 6th grade, and that got a lot better because I had friends. Because in the 4th grade class, they just, you know how some classes, like the whole class is like works real well together, and then some years you get a class that just kind of sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It was like that. So it got better, but then I started to get bad anxiety in 6th grade. And it was all because I heard a report on TV about someone who was on death row, and it started to really bother me. And then I started to have all of these like thoughts about death and stuff that were like obsessive.
Oh, wow.
So I went to a therapist for a short time because people back then, I mean, it was the 80s. The 80s was when your parents let you watch Nightmare on Elm Street because they didn't realize there was stuff you didn't need to see in it because there was no way to know.
Oh, yeah.
So,
a PG movie in the 80s, that's like a PG-13 to R movie today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. You know, I was like seeing episodes of 30-something because my parents had it on. I had no idea what was happening, you know?
Yes. So, Disco, you have no idea what 30-something is, do you?
I know a couple of 30-somethings.
Yeah. I guess it was I don't even know if it was a good show or not. It was very popular for about 3 years. Yeah.
I don't know. It makes me think, what's that movie with Steve Martin in it? Where Parenthood. It makes me think of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know. All these issues that make it, like when I was a kid, I wanted to be an adult so I could have my own place and buy stuff.
There you go.
I have my own place and I can't buy anything. But 30-something in Parenthood would make you be like, I never want to be an adult. That's what I think. So in the 80s still, I don't think people really got that you needed to go to a therapist more than twice for it to help. Then I was kind of okay until I got to be about 14. And I guess maybe all the changes you go through, it kind of really set off the depression. Mm-hmm. So when I was 15, I got severely depressed. Like my mom had to drag me out of bed for school every morning. It was to the point where I wanted to change schools and I was just severely depressed. So they took me back to another therapist, but I refused to talk. Now that shocks me because I can talk to a tree. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I call them TED Talks when I just don't stop rambling. It's like at the end, if you ramble and at the end you say, thank you for listening to my TED Talk, it's like drinking a Diet Coke with a Big Mac.
Right.
It eradicates 3/4 of the calories or 3/4 of the rambling.
Yes,
right, absolutely.
Yes.
So I'm surprised I didn't talk, but I just sat there. So they stopped taking me because
depression
that's just, like,
does that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like if I have to see an episode of Mama's Family, I get depression and then that happens. So.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, I like to insult Mama's Family whenever I can.
What?
So then, like,
that was one of the bastions of quality television writing and acting. Okay.
Are you kidding?
I'm joking. Right? Yes, I'm joking.
Do we need to get you some medication? Here?
No. I mean,
side effects may include loving Mama's Family.
It's many a person's guilty pleasure, but it is
side effect.
It is about as formulaic and one-dimensional as a TV show can get.
It just made me feel bad. Like the music you hear at Publix. I don't know if you have Publix there.
We have Publix.
It's like, it's not so terrible that you can laugh at it. It's just mediocre. It makes you feel depressed about life.
Yes.
It's like somebody just tried so hard to be mediocre.
It paved the way for According to Jim, okay? It really did.
Well,
anyway, sorry.
No, that's fine. I go off on tangents constantly.
There we go.
I mean, I'll be like, how did I start talking about snails? What was I going to say? Oh, so so my senior year of high school, I was kind of okay, but I didn't talk to anyone about how I felt like ever. Mm-hmm. Growing up in my family, we didn't, and I don't want to like diss on my family and my parents or whatever, but I think a lot of people don't know how to talk about feelings or emotions.
No, that's true.
They don't even know how to process their own or talk about them. And the idea of talking to you about your feelings makes them want to run away screaming. A lot of people can't tolerate other people's negative or difficult emotions. Like they need you to stop crying. They need you to be okay.
Yes.
I personally, you can cry in front of me for 5 hours and I'll just sit there and be like, okay, well.
And kind of related to what you're talking about with the student crying in your class and the other teachers not doing it or the principal not seeing that right. For some people, it makes them confront their own stuff. And it's like, I don't want to think about when I was sad and lonely myself. I've put that in a box, and you opening your box in front of me makes me, uncomfortable thinking about my box that I've put inside a closet in a room up on the attic that is behind, like this other curtain that we don't even go to.
With a sign that says "Beware of Jaguar."
Right, yes. So yes, it can
absolutely.
It can make people feel really, really uncomfortable. So.
Yeah,
but it's good to feel uncomfortable because a recent mantra of mine is uncomfortable holds hands with growth. And
no, I agree with you totally.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how you get better at stuff. Like I took a year where I made this. Okay, I'm always making, I call them programs for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a year where I had an abusive marriage, which it may seem like, because I will I don't seem like someone who'd get in an abusive marriage because I'll tell anyone off when they're
I was going to say, you seem like the alpha. Yes, more than the beta.
But anyone can get in one. And so after it ended, it was like my self-confidence was shot and everything was shot, even though I'd always been confident. So I had to get it back. So I made a program where I spent a year doing things that made me uncomfortable or that I hadn't done. Now they didn't have to be scary or they just had to be stuff I hadn't done. So I got 2 tattoos.
Okay. I was going to say, we need a top 5 of the things you did to make yourself uncomfortable. So go ahead. So 2 tattoos.
Okay. Uncomfortable. I went to a Nickelback concert. No, I'm kidding.
Watched a Mama's Family Marathon.
Yes.
Yeah, I ate guacamole. I hate guacamole. No, I got a couple tattoos. Yeah, I know. I know.
Okay.
I'm a vegetarian who hates many fruits and vegetables, but that's another thing. So I got a couple tattoos and the guy was like, "Do you have any questions?" I'm like, "No, I know it's going to hurt." So, I went ziplining, which wasn't really scary. I wanted to go skydiving, but I never ended up doing it because, at the time I had other stuff to spend money on and I thought it would be better to go alone because I thought I'd get more out of it that way. And then I went and rode the Ferris wheel here just as something new. Like it didn't have to be scary. Mm-hmm. I also made myself go to these meetups called the Atlanta Science Tavern and I made myself speak up loudly and make jokes. Nice. And then I made myself learn how to talk to absolutely anyone. So I would just walk up to strangers and start talking to them.
Cool.
Even though I felt weird at first. So now I can walk up to anyone and start talking to them. And that's what I was starting to do before this pandemic is I was going to the mall and just walking up to strangers and I was going to ask if I could just chat with them about stuff to put on Twitter. But then pandemic happened.
Yeah.
So I couldn't do it. So so that's the stuff that I've done to get my confidence back. And the best way to get confidence is to fake it. Like I saw a quote. It was like, you can't change your actions by thinking. You can change your thinking by actions.
Nice.
So,
nice.
Yeah, so that's what I did. But when I was 16, I was better. But I went to college and I didn't feel okay. I didn't know why. And then finally when I was 19, everything just like hit the fan. And I was working at a bookstore and I would spend 3 hours a day having obsessive thoughts about random things that don't make any sense. I don't know how much you know about OCD. So I was diagnosed with OCD in 1997, but I found out over time it didn't quite fit because when you have OCD, one of the main things is everyone has weird fleeting thoughts. Like you might be walking to the sink from the stove with a pot of boiling water with pasta in it and your dog walks by. And for a second you'd be like, "Oh my God, what if I spilled this on my dog?" But then it goes away because your dog's just walking by and you think that. Most people, it just goes away. Well, then I would be like, did I have that thought because I wanted to dump the water on my dog? Like, why am I having this thought? And like, I love animals so much that that's ridiculous, but I couldn't get it out of my head that like, if I really am that way. And that's OCD thoughts are having thoughts that either are completely contrary to how you are, or like you said, you did it, but what if you didn't? There's this tiny little, what if you didn't?
Yeah.
So I was diagnosed with OCD in 1997. I was put on SSRIs.
Okay.
And,
what is that? I don't know what that means.
Oh, I'm sorry. Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Oof. They're antidepressants that are like, Effexor, Prozac, Zoloft, stuff like that.
Okay.
I was put on those and I was on these medications for about 20 years.
Oh God.
And I am no lie, I did therapy for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
My mom and I calculated this once. I probably did over 300 hours of therapy.
Wow.
I read everything I could get my hands on. That's how I got really knowledgeable is reading anything. I read practitioner's manuals. When I did behavioral therapies, because I did 2 different types, I read the practitioner's manuals to make sure they were doing it right. The reason is because of my psychiatrist and how he failed me.
Okay.
But,
the one that you had in like, in middle school? or high school?
Oh, no. I didn't have a psychiatrist till 1997. He diagnosed me with OCD.
Oh,
and
gotcha.
he put me on medication. Now, he happened to put me on a mood stabilizer, Riddles.
Mm-hmm.
So I have bipolar disorder, but I did not know because I was on a mood stabilizer.
Mm-hmm.
And he put me on that to help the antidepressant work better. I don't know why, but what happened is I kept going to therapy. I got then put on a medication for OCD, which is Luvox, but I kept getting worse. And apparently as you get in your 30s, bipolar can really get worse.
Mm-hmm.
And finally it got to the point where I couldn't even work full time. I ended up getting the job I have now part-time, but I had to get help from family financially. I'm very lucky. I do see how people with mental health issues can become homeless.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely.
I really see that. If you didn't have a supportive family who could help you financially sometimes,
yeah,
even people who have depression and not something more severe that could happen to them.
Yeah.
So finally my cousin, she said, listen, you seem to be just getting worse and worse and worse. And I know this doctor who specializes in bipolar disorder. I think you might have it. Because we have several family members who have it. It's very genetic.
Wow. Okay.
There's four people in my family who
a canary.
have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to this doctor, and in 5 minutes, he was like, "You have bipolar disorder." He said, "Are you?" No,
5 minutes?
Yes, 5 minutes. He was like,
Wow.
"Are you allergic?" Well, because what had happened, I'll tell you another thing. I got off the mood stabilizer 2 years before because it was making me gain weight. And then when I got on the OCD drug years before, I started binge eating to the point where I got diagnosed with an eating disorder. So I went through eating disorders treatment for 4 years, which was awful. And I didn't have an eating disorder. As soon as I got off that drug, I totally quit binge eating and lost 30 pounds without doing anything.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So that was thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yes. Not bashing mental health professionals, because I know that they are doing the best they can, but there is, it seems, because the human brain is so complicated, a lot of guess and check going on,
Yes.
it seems, you know?
Yeah,
Okay.
totally.
Yeah.
A lot of times we don't even know why these drugs work the way they do.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're supposed to treat, help you quit smoking, and it ends up that it helps anxiety.
Right.
I once heard it said that psychiatrists are the only doctors who don't look at the organ they diagnose.
I've never
It's
heard that,
I never
but
thought
that's
of
a
it that
good
way. But they don't do brain scans. They don't look at your brain activity. They just guess based on the things you say.
Right. And
and your self-reporting is not always accurate.
No.
Oh, no.
I mean, because sometimes who wants to report something shameful?
Right.
When I got off my mood stabilizer, now, and I'm not meaning to bash mental health. My situation is rare.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen to most people, and I advocate for people who haven't been to therapy to go.
It's the best.
You're unlikely to end up with what I ended up with.
Yeah.
Yeah, a good therapist is like a good teacher. A lot of times it has to do with connection, and personality types. And there's plenty of people, if you remember being in school where everybody liked this teacher, they're not my favorite. Yeah. And it could be the same with therapists. You just got to find someone who's your favorite.
Yeah.
It's like dating. You really should go around and check out 4 or 5, 6, however many it takes till you feel a connection.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So can you swipe
that's what
right and left for therapists? Can you do that yet?
They should have that. That's a good idea. Maybe you should do that instead of your
we'll call it Finder.
There you go.
Oh.
Yeah. So I finally got correctly diagnosed. My doctor was like, "Have you ever taken Zoloft?" I said, "Yes." He's like, "Did you have any reactions?" I said, "Yes, I hallucinated." And then he asked me, I thought there was a train track attached to the top of my head. Wow. It was lovely.
And there wasn't, just to specify?
Well, I mean, although I do that sometimes.
Who doesn't?
I mean, especially at Christmas, I like to lie under the
Christmas. Yeah, it's very festive. Very festive.
And then he was like asking me if I feel a lot of anger, because I did, and I didn't know why, because I didn't used to be an angry person. Mm-hmm. But my old psychiatrist never asked me these questions. His questions would be like, "How are you sleeping? How's life? How's your get up and go?" Well, you need to define what get up and go means. Because my granddad used to say my get up and go got up and went.
Yeah.
But to different people, that could mean something different. So he didn't ask anything helpful. My new psychiatrist was like, "Do you have anger? Do you find yourself having impulse control issues?" Because when I got off the mood stabilizer, it was awful. Most people with bipolar that I know, I have bipolar type 1, which is the more severe type. Mm-hmm. Most people you talk to, or I don't know if this is actually, statistically true, have very severe depression, and their mania is mild to moderate. Mm-hmm. Mine is the opposite. I have never heard, a lot of bipolar people self-harm. most of the people I know have been in mental health facilities once or twice or more, or have attempted suicide. I don't know the exact statistics, but I want to guess it's between 10 and 20% of people with bipolar disorder try it.
Yeah. And a lot of them self-medicate with a lot of substances as well, as is really common.
With most mental illnesses, bipolar too.
Yes. With a lot of them, like a lot of drinking. A lot of people I know who drink are either teachers or they have a mental health issue.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes both.
Being a teacher, I think, might be a mental health issue.
A mental health issue.
Right.
Yes, or you have a mental health issue, and that's why you're a teacher. Yeah, there's probably some correlation there.
I mean, I don't know how I got lucky, but I never ended up addicted to anything. I don't know how.
That's good.
I have no idea how.
Yeah.
But anyway, when I came off the mood stabilizer, it was crazy because my mania is severe and destructive, and my depression is manageable.
Oh, wow.
It's the opposite. So, like, my mania is like that YouTube video, hold my beer, hey guys, watch this. And then I'm like driving an ATV up a snowy hill and falling off backwards and killing myself by accident.
Oh my goodness.
So, all the things that people do with no impulse control, like causing car accidents, not severe ones, just like rear-ending someone or, making real poor choices in a number of arenas. Not thinking, getting real angry at work and saying stuff you shouldn't say and then being like, all that stuff. I mean, it was bad. But I didn't realize, because at that point, when you've been an angry person for so long and your psychiatrist has not helped you figure out why, you just think you're an angry person.
Right.
You think that's just you.
Yeah.
So finally, when I talked to my doctor, we talked about all this, and he was like, this is because you have bipolar disorder. I also found out I was on 3 times the maximum safe medical dose of everything I was taking.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
The only thing is, SSRIs are very bad for bipolar. They make it worse. But I'm in a much better place. I got diagnosed, got on the right medication. Now, when you come off of Fexer, it's like coming off heroin.
Oh, wow.
Like, doctors will tell you this.
Wow.
Like, you get the shakes, you feel like you have bugs under your skin, you hallucinate. It was fun.
Oh.
You come to work and you spend an hour at lunch throwing up. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So while all this was happening, throughout any of it, were you teaching? Or was this before you were teaching?
I worked full-time the entire time, and I got 2 master's degrees.
I mean, oh my goodness.
Because what else are you going to do?
But the mental and emotional toll of just normally teaching, well, not there's any such thing as normally teaching, but like, is so much. And then add that on top of it. Like, how did you manage?
I don't know. I'm just someone who will always keep going on. And if I decide I'm going to do something, I will break every bone in my body till I do it.
Wow.
For better or worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm good at school and I like school, so I think that also helped me feel like I was doing something good because I didn't feel very good about anything. And at least I could achieve something in that area.
Yeah.
Because, I was not in a good marriage. Teaching is very taxing, and I figured when you have bipolar disorder and you're not in a good place and you have to be on all the time like you do as a teacher, that's very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it helped me feel like I was actually doing something in some area of my life.
So at that point, maybe it's just like this really annoying buzzing in the back of your head, but you're still trying to carry on a conversation and function. Yeah.
Like you were talking about compartmentalizing people's emotions. I mean, and then, it would help me with things I don't want to do in the future, because if I'm afraid of something, I just do it anyway.
Yeah.
Worst that's going to happen is I'm going to fail and look stupid, but that happens so often anyway. Like, I failed so much more than I've succeeded that I don't care about failure at all.
That's cool.
I am more afraid of success. Constantly, every day I don't even feel embarrassed, but every day I embarrass myself according to other people, probably because I'll fall in front of a whole bunch of people, or I drop my entire drink at work all over the floor, or I accidentally say something really crazy and stupid. I talk too much, So yeah, I mean, I've learned every way not to do things. Like, I published my book and I did everything wrong. And I would announce it was coming out, and then it wouldn't come out. And I went about everything completely wrong because I had no idea what I was doing. So now I know how to do it right.
And now for a word from our sponsors.
Hey guys, this is an advertisement. A commercial if you want to know what it is.
And they do.
So this is especially for you folks in North Kakalaki and South Kakalaki. You have a house. You have a car. You have life. What do you need? You need insurance. You go, you know what? If I could buy my insurance from a former teacher, that's what I'd like to do. Hey, Tedisco, do you know anyone that has a business selling insurance who used to be a teacher?
You know I do, and I think you do too. Pimentel?
Yeah, he used to teach with us, but he doesn't anymore. And apparently there's some guy Garcia that he knows. So they've got insurance. You need insurance. There's a link in the show notes.
You know, we're all kind of looking at bottom line. We're looking at what's going to help us, what's going to be easiest. Check it out. Talk to them. Get a quote, and they will help you out.
And it's at Pimentel, Pimentel, Garcia.com. So you can email them that info. You can go to the website, or you can call 704-272-3535. It's all listed in the show notes. Swipe down and click, baby. You're there. And then get your insurance from a teacher, not from some weird lizard or from some ball guy who says bubba-dubba-dubba-da-da-da. No, you don't want that. You want it from a teacher. That's where you want your insurance.
When you call up Pimentel Garcia Insurance, make sure you tell them you heard it from us. And now, back to the show. That's actually a perfect transition, because the next thing I wanted to ask you about was about your book. And what was the process like for writing it, for putting it together? Like, how did that whole process work for you, and what's it been like ever since?
I was in our work bathroom. We have a couch. And sometimes in the ladies' room, we only have 4 women, so we each have our own stall. Now, I was assigned the handicap stall, so I don't know what they're trying to tell me. But, so I'm sitting on the couch, and suddenly I get this idea for a book. This is what happens. I get an idea. One time I pulled over off the highway and sat at a Quick Trip and wrote for 2 hours because I was like, it's going to go away. So I wrote the first chapter of this book. So it's a mystery series. It's a series. It's called Double Detectives. It's about 2 identical twins. And they're married to college roommates. Now, this idea partially comes from real life because my mom and aunt are identical twins, and my dad and uncle were college roommates.
Wow. Okay.
But that's where these similarities end, as far as the plot goes. Now, some of the characteristics of the people. So the 2 husbands, the women find out that they have this big secret where it's like this scandalous thing that's been going on. And you do find that out in chapter 1, but I'm not going to say what it is. Okay. So anyway, they go on, and then they're all kind of crazy. I mean, they all have big idiosyncrasies. I do have a character with bipolar disorder.
Cool.
Because I wanted to raise awareness for like, hey, this girl's just living her life. Like, oh, it's not depressing about, look at all her struggles. Like, you know, she's watching Lifetime movies and people are making fun of her for it, you know? And, you know, I have people like who can't stand that nobody uses a coaster, stuff like that. So then they end up at something like Cirque du Soleil, which is something negative happens. I don't name the place. I come up with a different name. Mm-hmm. If it's just random stuff or positive stuff, like I mentioned Starbucks and Home Depot, but it's nothing bad. Mm-hmm. So I call it the French Canadian Circus.
Nice.
So these 4 people are there and a body falls out of the rafters and lands on them. And then they are trying to solve the murder. And that's what happens in the book. And it's very absurd because most of what I write is absurd anyway. Mm-hmm. And I find it very funny myself personally. I think it's a funny book, but I've gotten a lot of feedback that it's funny. So that's I'm not meaning to sound.
No, that's cool. And I know you're funny because we're going to go there in just a minute. But since it was a mystery, was there? And since you've been a teacher, you understand backwards planning and all that kind of stuff. Because me thinking of writing like a murder mystery as opposed to writing just like a straight narrative, I guess, is like I've got to drop clues, but I don't want to drop too many clues. But I want when the reveal comes that we can go, oh, that's right. He had he got the extra foam in his latte at Starbucks, and there was foam on the body that we thought came from a rabid dog or whatever it was. You know what I mean?
That's a good idea for a book.
Thank you.
No. Okay, so this may sound weird.
Just made that up.
I know, that's a good idea. I like it. It can be very absurd. No, I actually don't. So I don't plan at the beginning at all.
Okay.
It pops in my head. I just start writing. And then, like, when I'd never written a book before. I'd written blog posts. I wrote it while I was coming off of Fexer in 3 months.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
It was the only thing that took me out of my head. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, what happened is I would write something and then I would get to know my character. So I don't know if that sounds weird.
No,
and I would
hear
realize,
that a lot from people I've heard writers talk. Yeah.
I was like, oh, later I'd be like, this person wouldn't say this. This person would say it. Mm-hmm. But as I went through, I started to get, like, I kind of knew where I wanted it to go and some of the things I wanted to happen. So on this first one, I did a rough draft and I realized, okay, if this is going to happen at the end, like everything to me in a book, because I'm writing popular fiction. Now, I can write in a more serious style, but still, I want it to be stuff that entertains people, because this goes with my philosophy of everything, which is help people feel better about life and themselves and their mental health, and that they're not weird because they wore 2 different shoes to work one day. Mm-hmm. You know, and then with the writing, it's take them out of their head for a while. So it all goes together. So I'm trying to write stuff that appeals to a regular person, not somebody with like a literature degree.
Yes.
So, I was like, I think everything needs to have a reason. Like when you have something in a book and then later you're like, why was that there?
Yes.
Like, I don't think that's good. My first editor actually told me it did seem like it was written for TV because I'm very detailed in my writing. But I realized, okay, at the end, if I want to have it in this way and this person's going to do this thing, I have to have a short mention of how this person knows how to do this thing.
Yes.
So then I would go back and add that. Or I would be like, okay. Like, okay, if I want this other person to have witnessed something, I have to have a reason for her to be back in this place witnessing it. So I have to go back to this other scene and create a reason she could later be backstage witnessing whatever she witnessed. So, that's kind of how I worked. But now, like for the second book, I have a rough outline. Like I'll go through and write chapter 16 and give a brief overview because I've learned kind of how to do it. And also I got a lot better at editing. Like I think it's very important to pay a professional cover designer. I mean, I have a certificate in graphic design and I'm not going to design my own book cover. Like I'm just not, because the cover's super important regardless of what anyone says.
Oh, definitely. If you wanted to sell. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I paid a professional
We paid someone
editor.
$15 to design our logo. Is that a good idea?
Well, you know what? With people starting out, yes, it actually probably is.
Thank you.
I mean, it's a good logo.
Thank you.
I mean, and you know what? I actually, I did logos, so I would recognize if it was an ugly logo. You didn't use Comic Sans, thank you so much, or Papyrus font.
Well, we're not opening up a lemonade stand, so I think that was probably the biggest factor in that.
You've mentioned them both, and I actually tweeted this out one time, and I can't remember if I tagged you on it, but I said this to the disco. I had this revelation: is Comic Sans the Nickelback of fonts, or is Nickelback the Comic Sans of bands? I don't know which is
you know
true.
what? I must not have seen that because I would have responded to that.
Millions of people love both Comic Sans and Nickelback, but everyone you talk to claims to hate them.
Yeah, that's true.
So they really are somehow related to each other. I don't know how.
Some closeted Comic Sans fans.
So that's what I do is like I just write it, and sometimes it goes in a different direction. So there's actually a name for this type of writing. Some people plot everything out, like dude who wrote Game of Thrones, George R.R. Martin. Apparently, I heard he plots everything out, like
every little detail.
Great detail. That sounds absolutely horrible to me.
Tolkien might have been the same way. It feels like something Tolkien would do as well. Yeah.
Yep.
I'd want to jump out a window if I had to do that. So, but the problem is when you write like I do, if they call it pantsing. Like flying by the seat of your pants. What's possible is you can go down a plot line and be like, this is a dead end.
Yeah.
But I did not have that happen, but I did have stuff I had to change.
Yeah. That's how I teach, by the way.
Totally.
That's exactly how I teach. And then I'm like, but like kind of like what you do is then after the lesson, I go, like the first time I teach a lesson, I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. And like I go through and I'm like, guess what? If I would have said this, like the first 5 minutes, these other 3 things would have made complete sense to them. I just had to word this one thing differently and would have spent them there. So yeah.
Is the other type of writing called plotting? Isn't it plotting and pantsing? Aren't those the 2 types?
I don't know. I don't know how I ended up learning this. I was reading an interview with someone sometime, but it might be.
Yeah.
It's probably called outlining. When I was in college and high school, they would want an outline, so I would write the paper and then write the outline. Yeah,
that's what I would do. Yeah.
Cool.
I too am quite the pantser.
It didn't help me, that outline. So yeah, that's what I did. And, it turned out to make sense and stuff. And I did hire a professional editor, and that taught me how to edit better. Like now I've learned you don't need all these words. You can cut all this crap down. It's harder to be succinct than it is to ramble.
It is. So, it definitely is. Brevity is the soul of wit, said
it is.
The bard. Okay.
Yeah. It's true, too.
So really it was a dumb character in Hamlet, and he was the guy who talked the most, and I don't really know if he meant that ironically, if he meant it genuinely. Anyway, we're not going to...
Oh, wow,
let's just move on.
Okay. I just know he said that, so, anyway.
Yeah, that's all I know, too.
I think I saw it on a coffee mug somewhere. But,
T-shirts, too.
Yes. So now we're going to challenge you, okay? And we'll see how this goes. And, cause I pumped you up. I pump her up. Whenever someone asks me who's your funniest follow, it's always, Larkyn Simony. It always is. Without
You're so nice. I really appreciate that.
But it's true. It's true. And so she is, so, you know, dad jokes is just such a, gender-centric term. Yes. So we're here to normalize, dad jokes made by moms. Okay. Cause moms can make dad jokes too. Okay.
What if you're not a mom?
I don't know. I don't know what they are then. I don't know, but they just.
Aunt and uncle jokes.
Yes. But yes, somehow it got thrown into dad jokes. But I mean, I do think there's some truth to that. But anyway.
I do have people say you have made the transition to dad now.
Yes.
And I say thank you, son.
So Larkyn can make a joke out of almost anything. Okay. So I'm going to throw you 3 topics and see if you can make a riddle or a joke out of it. And if you can't, you can't, and we'll edit it out if it's too tough. Okay. So your 3, I'm just randomly throwing them out here, guys. All right. Is, Febreze, and these don't have to be related. Febreze, agriculture, or rhinoceros. And if any of those jump out of you.
Oh, God.
I know.
What was it? Febreze, agriculture, and rhinoceros.
Yeah. I don't know.
No. Just give me.
Yeah, give you a minute.
Okay.
You got it?
Well, I mean, this isn't really a joke, but I'm wondering, like, if rhinoceros has a nose job, is it a rhinoplasty? I don't know.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. Yes, okay.
You know, and if you're standing outside and, you know, you get this great, wonderful wind on your face when you're walking, and it doesn't smell like garbage because you're not, like, in New York City, it's a fab breeze. Right?
Nice!
These are terrible.
There we go.
Usually I work backwards. Like, I'll just look around the room and I'll be like, okay, cabinet, what can I make about that?
Okay.
Chair, what can I make about that? And I work backwards trying to see, but a pun doesn't work unless it works on 2 levels. Like, you can't just tell a joke where the pun, like, it's just a pun. Like, it has to actually make sense on more than one level. So that's the hard part about it.
It is. You know? It is. I know.
But I do have a much better one.
Okay, go for it. Yes.
Okay. I don't drink beer because I pee a lot.
Oh, nice.
It looks better written. Written down, it looks better.
Thank you. Yes. No, it's good. It took me a second.
What do you get when someone whacks you over the head with a beer bottle?
What?
I don't know. What?
Bruise.
Nice.
So yeah, those are better probably.
Those are good. Yeah, we'll stick with those. Okay, those are awesome.
The other ones weren't very good.
That's okay. It's not easy. So the name of the game, okay, it's colleague, admin, student, okay? So I want you to it's basically like kill, marry, and then the other one. You know that game?
Oh, yes, I do know.
Okay. All right. So, but now you have to take these 3 people and you have to make them either your colleague that you're going to teach with, your administrator that they'd be, or your student. Okay. So you've got Mick Jagger, David Bowie, and Freddie Mercury. Okay. So one of them has to be your colleague, one of them has to be your administrator, and one of them has to be your student.
Jagger, Freddie Mercury. Who was the third one?
David Bowie.
Okay. I don't know. It would be hard to pick an administrator there. I think I would pick Mick Jagger as the colleague.
Okay.
Because he did a lot of self-medicating.
Okay. Yes.
I'm sure the other 2 probably did too, but
yes,
he's going to live till he's 100 years old or 200 years old because he did so many drugs. My theory is they all mixed together in his body and formed formaldehyde, so he's actually already embalmed. So that's why he's going to live for so long. So I would pick him as my colleague.
Okay,
I'll bring a picture of Mick Jagger to my old high school health teacher and be like, explain.
There was a point though where Mick Jagger and Don Knotts did look like the same person, so that's another thing as well.
I'll have to look that up. I did not know that.
Yes.
Oh, I will definitely check that out. That's very interesting. It's too bad Mick Jagger didn't guest star on Scooby-Doo like Don Knotts did.
No, what? Oh, did he?
There's a Don Knotts episode of Scooby-Doo.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. I believe it.
It was kind of boring. Not like the Addams Family one. That was good.
That's a good one.
Let's see. I think for the student, I guess I would pick Freddie Mercury because I feel like, back when he was, at his heyday, like he wasn't as accepted as he would be now. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's more like what a kid would go through. Mm-hmm. And David Bowie seems somewhat competent to me. Well, yes. So that wouldn't really make him
he dresses like an administrator sometimes in his later years, anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, the fact that he seems somewhat competent doesn't make him a good candidate for administrator.
That's true.
I think I would pick him because at least he presents himself well.
Uh-huh.
As they say about politics, which I'm not going to get into, but they talk about looking presidential.
Yes.
Looking dignified. So at least he looks the part and he was stylish.
Yes.
So, also, which doesn't make him a good candidate for administrator.
Right.
But,
those
would be my three choices.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what I would pick.
I think that's a good call.
So I'm gonna give you maybe two more. We'll see. Okay. So the next one.
Fun. I like this.
Okay. Yeah. It's gonna be TV detectives-ish. Okay. So, Magnum PI, Angela Lansbury from Murder, She Wrote, and, the Benedict Cumberbatch version of Sherlock Holmes.
Okay.
Wow.
So I think, Benedict Cumberbatch would be your weird colleague.
Okay.
Who never came into the teacher's lounge to do anything because he was very socially phobic.
Mm-hmm.
And he would do, you'd find him coming out of the bathroom with his lunch because he ate lunch in there because he didn't want to have to be around anybody. You'd be like, dude, why are you eating lunch in the bathroom? and I think he would probably teach math.
Yes.
He would give you all kinds of weird, impossible to solve riddles. He'd give you things having to do with Einstein looking for the theory of everything that was unsolvable and not tell you that. I think that's what he would do. So he'd be your weird colleague. So then we have Angela Lansbury, and who was the other one?
Magnum PI.
Magnum PI.
Okay. I think, this is tough. Okay. So first of all, I want to say that my theory is Angela Lansbury's character on Murder, She Wrote was actually a serial killer because everywhere she went there was murder. I have to mention that.
Yes.
Important theory.
Yes.
I would
never caught.
say, I mean, the traditional thing would be to say she's the administrator because she seems like an older lady who would fit into that role. Mm-hmm. But I want to say Magnum PI is the administrator.
Okay.
Because, he's got that big old mustache, but a lot of people still, found it's Tom Selleck, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Very attractive. And I think he's the administrator who maybe isn't the most into administrating, but he's off getting all the ladies.
There you go.
So when he comes to work, he's the best principal ever because he leaves you alone because he's hungover every day.
There you go. That's true.
And
he's hanging out with TC and Rick or whatever his friend's name is. Anyway.
And the school runs better because then the teachers aren't micromanaged, and so they know what they're doing, so they get left alone to do their job. So, and then Angela Lansbury, she can be the student because she looks scared a lot.
Okay.
But she'd also be a great student. So
and she looks like someone who would but she would do her homework. You wouldn't have to bug her about doing her homework. She would definitely.
No.
Of those.
Explain everything to the class, but she'd wait until the very end of the class to do it.
Yeah.
And then she would kill someone, but that's another story.
Yes. Because Magnum wouldn't do his homework, and Sherlock would do something completely different from his homework, or tell you that the homework was pointless because he would tell you all the answers.
Feel bad for assigning it.
And I think his parents would tell you he wasn't being challenged enough.
That's true. That's
true. Because he's too intelligent for your class.
Yes.
And he's bored.
Nope.
Yes.
That's no.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you actually already brought up, we're going to do one more. You actually brought up one of these people already, and I don't know how you can handle this, but this is completely different. Yogi Bear, Scooby-Doo, and Snoopy.
God, I don't like Snoopy. Okay. Yogi Bear, Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, what do you have against, first of all, so let's pause for a second. What do you have against Snoopy?
Okay, number one, how comfortable is it to sleep on top of a doghouse? That's not very smart.
Okay, so
Number two, I just Charlie Brown was fine. The Halloween and Christmas specials, I love.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was kind of boring.
Okay.
I know. Okay. I'm gonna get it's gonna be the time
Snoopy
I said
does
I don't
have
like
some,
Robin Williams.
some Me Too issues, because he is definitely like kissing people who did not want to be kissed. But I guess you could chalk that up to him being a dog, but still, he was a little bit too much there with the unwanted affection.
Yogi Bear.
And Yogi Bear and Snoopy.
Okay. I think Yogi Bear would be the administrator because he was like always just like kind of wandering around not knowing what was going on.
and claimed to be smarter than he was.
Yes, he did. Yeah. He claimed to be smarter than he was.
So he acted like he knew what he was doing. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's fine. Most of us don't know what we're doing on a daily basis, but we're actually trying to figure it out. He was just kind of dumb. So that would make him a good administrator.
Yes.
I think Snoopy would be the creepy gym teacher who got too close to the girls he was teaching. There you go.
Nice. Wow.
You know, not like he did anything, but
some bunch of PE teachers unsubscribing from our podcast now, but go ahead.
No, because I had a weird PE teacher. This is why
I did one too. He wore Jordache jeans that were way too tight. But anyway.
Jordache. I hope they were frosted.
Yes.
He made us climb a rope, and he lifted all the girls onto the rope. And I was like, I was in 7th grade. I was like, ew. That sounds awful. I mean, it could be anyone else, but gym teachers have more of a chance to touch you. That's why I said gym teacher.
Yeah, sorry for that image to this. But this was like in health class when I had him. Yeah, sorry.
With all the things I'm hearing.
Scooby-Doo would also be your self-medicating colleague because even though he was a dog, I'm pretty sure he was high 100% of the time.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
So, you know.
Yes. But he would never make it to the meetings. He would often be something like, we're supposed to be over here. He's like, what? I'm in the cafeteria just like eating the leftovers.
Well, and you know there's those people who are constantly eating all day long.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. As a teacher, he'd be, I mean, and that happens when you teach. So he'd be perfect. But
the admin, Yogi Bear, would always walk in at the exact right moment, and everybody would think he's amazing, even though he's a total slacker.
Yes, and he could help Scooby-Doo because he has a picnic basket, right?
He does. That's true. By the way, oh boy, I'm gonna bash somebody here for a second, Tedisco. Okay, so this person who I do not follow on the Twitter, they put it out as if they were proud. They confiscated. They're like. They were making fun of the kid for sending them a chat message on Microsoft Teams asking if the teacher could drop off the cookies at their house that the teacher had confiscated. And they're like, oh, this kid wants me to drop off the cookies. Da, 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 da. I'm like, hey, why are you confiscating the kid's cookies? Like, let's address that. Like, you know, the kid's got cookies in his class. Okay. For whatever reason, you don't like kids to eat cookies in your class because you're hung up on that. But like, they're the kids' cookies. You like literally took someone's food and now you're making fun of them for wanting their food back. You know?
Well, that's weird. Like, if they're eating cookies in class and you don't want them to, just say, I'm going to keep them on my desk till the end of class and then you can take them when you leave.
Right. Or, I think this is okay. I just impose a cookie tax. Okay. So one cookie, you know what I mean, for me, and now you can keep the cookies, and that's.
Teachers need like donuts.
Yes.
They can't do their job without donuts.
It's true. All right.
Donuts and vodka.
There we go.
That should have been the name of the podcast. Oh, man.
You put the donut over the top of the bottle of vodka through the hole.
Okay. I thought you put it like the ring on the margarita glass where it was just a donut as the on the top.
It doesn't matter.
Yes. Well, Larkyn, we just want to say thank you so much for coming on. We really, really enjoyed it. I feel like we've been on like a super fun roller coaster ride, and we've gone everywhere. We've gone from the serious to the fun to all the stuff. And we definitely want to say, hey, we'll put the link to the book in the show notes. And is there anything else that we can help you make money with besides that you? I mean, definitely follow her on Twitter. So we'll put your handle on Twitter, but go ahead.
Listen for updates on the second
I
book.
do have a blog. It's not going to help me make money, but it's called Spinach in Your Teeth, and I tell stories about stupid things I've done. Like when we had to all go to a stadium in the middle of the county on buses to have a powwow with the new superintendent. And the most memorable moment is he's saying if you're happy and you know it for some reason.
Oh, God.
But after that, the PTSD set in and I don't remember anything else. Then when we were leaving, we had to get to the buses. And I was like going to get back to the bus myself. I can't find my way anywhere. So I like left my colleagues and went to the wrong parking lot and I got left by the bus.
Oh no!
So I had to go around on the bus for the stragglers and be taken back. This is my second day of work at my first adult job.
Oh my goodness!
So I was 2 hours late. So I write about stuff like that, and then I write about humor and satire, just funny stuff, and then I'll write stuff about life, like how nobody has any idea what they're doing. And I'm just trying to get more of a following. I mean, maybe eventually I could sell ads on it, but right now I'm just trying to get people to read it. So that's the other thing.
There you go. Tudisco has a blog that him and I have read. And maybe his mom.
Yeah. No,
What's
just
your
me and
blog?
you. Oh,
it's Unprofessional Development.
The podcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the podcast blog.
I did love that story you told, because the only thing worse than seeing an admin, like a teacher and admin talking down to a child, is when you deal with teachers and admin who only know how to talk to everybody like they're children. And they'll talk to all the staff like you're all 6 years old.
Oh, God.
I said that all the time when I was a teacher. They would make us on Fridays. Like Fridays, a lot of times you could leave early. We couldn't just leave. You had to wait until the principal was like, "Teachers, you may be dismissed."
Sorry about that.
And I was like, "Oh, just shoot me."
Yeah. Sorry about that. That's sad.
I think they treat you. Some people treat you like you are the age that you teach.
Yes, that's true.
Yes.
Which is weird. And it's usually not people who've taught for 20 years who go into administration.
Yeah.
It's people who teach for 2 or 3 years. I'm not saying there aren't awesome principals.
There
I'm
are.
just saying I haven't met one myself.
Nice. Wow. Nice. That's...
I've heard of these mythical creatures.
Yes.
However, I feel it would be like the search for the golden fleece. And I don't know that.
Wow.
Oh,
That's
my
good
God.
stuff there.
I love
Yes. That's what you pay the big money for, podcast listeners, okay? She'll be here all week. That's what you need to follow on Twitter, yes.
Tip
So
your server.
We're gonna end it there, and we're just gonna say thank you and stay unprofessional.